Today, we're going to be taking a look at a PS4 controller. No, not the retail one like you see now, which I'm sure by now you're quite used to seeing. Instead, we're going to be taking a look at a prototype controller that was shipped and may occasionally still be shipped with PS4 development tools. Now, this controller may look a bit familiar. Way back in February of 2013, gamers got a first glance at the PS4 development tool and a controller prior to the PS4's grand reveal. In this video, we're going to take a bit of a closer look at the prototype controller. Keen-eyed gamers should notice that while things look fairly similar to the retail controller, there are some obvious differences. Let's start with the left side of the controller and the D-pad. While the retail controller adopted Sony's signature D-pad that you've seen on the DualShock 1, 2, and 3, the prototype controller is a bit closer to the Vita's D-pad. There are no directional decals on the prototype controller either. One thing that sets it apart is how shallow not only the D-pad is, but also the buttons are on the controller. They don't seem to have a satisfying amount of give like the retail controller, let alone the Vita. As a result, they're almost a bit mushy. The main face buttons aren't as glossy as the retail, but look visually similar. The share and option buttons are completely unlabeled on the prototype. Not having any insider information, I wonder to myself if this is due to the names of the buttons themselves possibly changing throughout development, or just simply the fact that it's a prototype controller. Either way, bigger than the lack of the decal names is the shape of the buttons, which are only very slightly raised and much harder to use. This brings us to the touchpad. It is much glossier, lacking the texture of the retail controller. One detail I actually like about the prototype is the look of the glossy plastic, which continues throughout the top half of the controller. It gives it a sleek look that isn't seen in the retail controller. As we move to the top of the controller, you can see that the positioning and size of the light bar has changed. On the prototype, the light is visible from the front of the controller. With all of the complaints that the light bar gets in its retail form, I can only imagine what people would say about having the light in their face as well. There's a lack of Sony branding on the top of the controller, and the prototype has shoulder buttons that are both colored and shaped differently. The shape of the back of the controller is also less curved than the retail, instead having a bump for the charging port. Instead of the micro USB port that you'd see on the retail controller though, there's a mini USB port. The back of the prototype controller also lacks the rough texture of the retail controller. While there's a hole for the reset button, there doesn't actually seem to be a button inside the controller, although I've yet to open it up. Besides the changes to the shape of the controller, there are also some other small changes throughout. The speaker grill has changed slightly, changing the amount of holes that you can see. The bottom of the controller is missing the headset control port, instead just having the headset jack itself. Overall, I really like that I've gotten my hands on a prototype PS4 controller, especially this early in this generation. I hope you've enjoyed this quick look at the PS4 controller prototype. Eventually, I'll open it up so we can see what internal changes were made. If you like prototype gaming materials, be sure to subscribe. Until next time, thanks for watching.